It was a dark and stormy night when Amanda first laid eyes on him across the crowded bar. Nursing her third whiskey sour of the evening, she observed him from the shadows of her corner table, taking in his rugged features and athletic build, though surrounded by friends. He seemed to emit an air of mystery and solitude. She was instantly intrigued. So when he accidentally caught her gaze, she held it boldly, sparking an unspoken connection. Little did Amanda know that this man would soon turn her world upside down. His name was Jake. She would later learn. They talked well into the early morning hours, the attraction palpable. He was well-traveled and well-read, regaling her with thrilling stories of adventures in far-flung corners of the world. Amanda, always craving excitement and fantasy, hung onto his every word. As a photographer, Jake had a unique lens on life. His passion when talking about his craft was infectious. Inspired by his experiences, Amanda, a writer, began mentally drafting the first pages of a new novel, with a protagonist not unlike the man before her. After a magical first date filled with laughter and intrigue, Amanda was hooked. Weeks turned into months as she fell hard and fast for this mysterious man, but Jake had demons. She soon realized. Demons that would frequently pull him away without reason or warning. His inexplicable disappearances never failed to floor her, yet her desire to understand and heal whatever darkness plagued his past overshadowed her doubts. She believed in the good in him, clinging to it fiercely like windswept sailor to a ship's mast. He always returned to her arms eventually, with profound apologies and embraces that weakened her resolve. It wasn't long before Amanda learned she wasn't the only port in his storm. Other women would call his phone while they were together, their photos popping up on his social media feeds. When confronted, Jake explained them away as just friends or former flings, downplaying the connections. Amanda, so in love and desperate to make it work, chose to believe him. Once, she even resorted to following him one night when he left her apartment after an argument, only to observe him meeting up with a beautiful brunette at a nearby restaurant from his past. The other woman greeted him with a passionate kiss that crushed Amanda's fragile heart instantly. Rather than admit the truth she feared, Amanda created elaborate stories in her mind. Jake was likely tangled up in his travels with dangerous people from his photography adventures. She rationalized, perhaps he was undercover CIA or in witness protection, which would explain the secrecy. She conjured all sorts of possibilities to justify his behavior. Too afraid to face reality, that is until the phone call that changed everything. It was 3 a.m. on a Tuesday night when her cell phone jolted her awake. The voice on the other end was panicked but familiar, one of Jake's friends. There had been an accident, he told her. Jake's motorcycle collided head-on with a truck on a winding mountain highway outside the city. His condition was grave. Amanda threw on clothes and raced to the hospital, her own panic rising. Once there, she learned Jake's injuries were critical, comatose with several broken bones and massive internal trauma. The doctors warned she should prepare for the worst. Amanda camped by his hospital bed for days, willing him to recover. She read him poetry, played his favorite music, brushed back his hair tenderly while begging him to open his eyes. His friends came and went with concerned looks, but she barely engaged. Only Jake mattered now. Then late one night, when did I see you was dim and quiet, Amanda noticed a slender figure appear in the doorway. A woman stepped forward from the shadows, lovely and refined. The other woman from the restaurant who had kissed her Jake. Amanda felt faint. What was she doing here? The woman silently approached Jake's bedside, bursting into tears as she clutched his hand. "Oh, darling," she cried, "my sweet, precious Jake, please come back to me." Amanda froze, comprehension dawning at last. This mystery woman clearly had history with Jake, spoke of a profound connection. Something in her words pierced Amanda's bubble of denial once and for all. Her worst fears were suddenly, devastatingly confirmed. Amanda finally found her voice. "Who are you?" she demanded. "How do you know Jake?" The other woman turned to her, eyes widening as if just realizing Amanda was there. She collected herself quickly. "My name is Isabel Jake and I have been involved for over a year. And you are." The truth hit Amanda squarely in the chest, knocking the wind from her lungs. Over a year? But that was before Jake met her at the bar and swept her off her feet. Horrified understanding sunk in. She was the other woman, for the duration of her passionate romance. Jake had been living a double life. He had lied to her, betrayed her without remorse. She had been a fool, willfully blind to all the warning signs. In the dramatic confrontation that followed between Amanda and Isabel, the devastating truth emerged. Both women had been led on by Jake, neither aware of the other's existence until this moment. Jake had masterfully juggled them both, creating elaborate lies to conceal his two separate lives. Amanda absorbed the revelations in escalating shock, her entire relationship now exposed as a sham. In strange solidarity, Amanda and Isabel turned their anger toward the unconscious man between them. The fraud who had so callously played them both with false declarations of love. They united as allies, providing comfort to one another as Jake clung precariously to life. Both had been profoundly fooled by this charismatic and mysterious man. If he recovered, Amanda vowed she would make sure he finally faced consequences for his duplicitous actions. Yet Jake's prognosis only worsened over subsequent days, his body broken. The doctors prepared the women for the ultimate outcome as his organs began shutting down. Amanda barely left the hospital anymore, keeping vigil alongside Isabel as they awaited the increasingly inevitable. All her prior hopes turned to bitterness. Her love morphing to hate, she cursed his name even as tears flowed freely. No matter the revelations, a piece of her heart would always belong to him. Late one sorrowful night, Jake's monitors alarmed as chaos erupted around his failing body. Amanda and Isabel clung to each other, sobbing uncontrollably as a team of doctors rushed urgently into the room. They tried desperately to resuscitate him as the women looked on in helpless dismay. Despite heroic measures, the damage was too devastating. Amanda's once dazzling dream man gasped his final ragged breath, his stormy heart going still at last. In the lonely days that followed Jake's tragic death, Amanda turned to writing once more to process her grief. She transformed her tumultuous story with Jake into an autobiographical novel, documenting their salacious love triangle without restraint. The story poured from her broken heart like blood from an open wound. Isabel became a trusted friend in the aftermath. Bonding with Amanda in their mutual betrayal, the book was her catharsis, her revenge. A way to finally find closure with the man who had so deeply deceived her under the guise of intimate affection. 2 years later, Amanda held the published book in her hands. Still incredulous it was real, titled Storm Chaser, it was generating buzz for its candid, daring content. As she arrived alone at her book launch party, Amanda felt empowered for the first time in ages. She had found self-forgiveness at last, finally ready to open her heart to love again, however guarded. Scanning the elegant crowd, she wondered if tonight might be the first page of a truer romance story waiting to unfold.